Well, the Thunder lead this series 3-0, and if you watch the preview we did, all of us expected this to be a sweep, and that is where we're headed. Probably by midnight tonight, I expect OKC to have locked up their place in the Western Conference Finals. That being said, I do want to give some props to the Lakers or a couple Lakers in general. JJ Redick, I think, has coached a really good series. LeBron has played pretty well. I commend the Lakers, and this is what I wanted from this series. It's like a fan of basketball and someone that just hopes there's good basketball to watch. Is can the Lakers at least keep it close enough where I'm tuned in into the second half and maybe even the start of a fourth
And
quarter?
they've been up in a
Mm-hmm.
couple at
Yeah.
halftime. At least last, or at least 2 nights ago, they were up.
Yeah. The Lakers have done a good job of keeping some of these games close for a large part of it. Score wise, close, I would say. There's not been a game yet where I'm actually expecting the Lakers to pull off a win or really feel like they're that close because everything they're doing is so difficult for them. Offensively, it's just so hard for them to generate good offense. The physicality and the defense of the Thunder have given them a ton of issues. Like when their best lineup isn't on the floor, it's pretty disastrous. When guys like Jake LaRavia are having to play, Aiden's not been good. Jackson Hayes, it just very quickly goes sideways, and that's when you can see the depth of OKC show up. Because one of the things the Lakers have really done in this series is just constantly double Shea, um, and it's led to a not great Shea series for Shea's standards, which are extremely high. I mean, if you go look at some of the stat lines, he's still putting up pretty good numbers. But game one, I think he has 7 or 8 turnovers, which is very much not like him. He's just not honestly. They've not allowed him to truly settle into his rhythm. Um, and he's also just not had to force trying to find that because when they're doubling him, he can just kick, pass out. Chet can go to work. AJ Mitchell's been great. Everyone's been cooking, and so he's been able to kind of sit back. And I don't think, they're down 3-0, but I think the Lakers have made the right move to double Shea and make someone else beat him. It's just unfortunately a lost cause. The personnel across the board just doesn't match up, and that's why the Thunder up 3-0, and I expect them to sweep. But I do just I really do think JJ Redick has coached a good series and has done all he could. His pieces are just bad. I mean, there's the clip that's been going around from Game 3 where Aiden allows 2 different offensive rebounds on him in the same possession, and he goes and sits down and says to one of his assistant coaches, him being JJ Redick, and he goes, "I just can't play him," and then he pulls out Aiden, which is just comical. And then today, video goes around, Aiden's unboxing his new Dominating chain. And it's all right, bro. Bad timing for that, man. I don't know if you've exactly been doing that these playoffs, especially not this series. I don't really have a ton to say on this series. It's going just how I expected. It's I applaud the Lakers for keeping a couple games kind of close, but it's not necessarily been the most exciting or thrilling series.
You anything else, JP?
Yeah. I mean, the Thunder, they've raised their play too, which
Yeah,
is pretty phenomenal. Like they were scoring 119 a game in the regular season. They're averaging 122 so far in the playoffs. So yeah, it's 7 playoff games. You're raising your points per game already, and that is with Shea not doing the bulk of the work. His points per game have dropped dramatically, from down to now 28 points per game, and he's averaging roughly 21 or 22 so far in this series. Um,
yeah,
for one, they haven't shortened their rotation as much as I thought they would. They're really playing uh 10 guys right now. I was kind of hoping they would get down to 8, so that'll be something to kind of look at going into the following series, regardless or depending, I should say, on who they get. Because I fully expect them to also kind of clean up shop tonight and take this game 4 and then move on from there.
yeah,
It's something I'll mention is the same thing I mentioned last postseason. They just don't have a game where they don't have a quarter that they just play perfectly. In this game, in game 3, I should say, it was the fourth quarter. They scored 41 points. In game 2, it was the second quarter. They scored 35 points. In game 1, it was the first quarter in which they scored 31 points. This is just a team, um, and game 2 was third, not the second. The team that they're going to find a way to have some kind of 35-point quarter, and that is really, really hard to guard against when you get into the postseason, because the other team, for the most part, shortens their rotation, and that means everyone has to produce on the other team. And when they're already as good as they are defensively, the Thunder, it's just really, really hard. I think if anything with this series, like I haven't responded to any of it. I have responded internally, I guess I should say, in my mind. But all this, the Shea foul bait and Thunder getting the benefit of the whistle stuff is just pure blasphemy to me. If you actually dove into the numbers, it's probably 5-1 in terms of stats that would favor the Lakers, would favor other NBA players when you compare it to the Thunder. So I don't even want to deep dive into that stuff. I hate that is even a talking point. I get it. There were some awful misses in game 1 and game 2 and game 3, but it's also the postseason. The reffing is going to be different. The reffing has been different throughout all the series too. Like they're just letting the Spurs and the Timberwolves just play.
Hand checking is legal in that series.
Yeah, literally, it is insane. I would die if I tried to play point guard in that series, just because that was the one thing I hated in AAU or anything like that is hand checking.
Yeah.
Because already at my small size, this just completely throws me off my balance and whatever. I'm not even. I don't want to deep dive into that stuff, but I just did want to say I don't like that is even a talking point, because it just clearly shows the Twitter fan and everybody, because they don't want to actually dive into the numbers. And when you dive into the numbers, none of the numbers support the argument, which makes the argument just a fallacy.
Either that, or you're the guy who, have you seen the memes where it's like, man, I can't wait to watch some sports, and it's just an Excel spreadsheet? Because then when you you only talk about the data, then it's like, well, you're just box score watching. But
there is, I mean, I'm not going to get into it either, because at this point it's been a year and a half long debate, and we've already talked about it on this show. Like, it doesn't feel like it's anything new to have that conversation.
Nope.
But I do like, what you said about the Thunder raising their floor, because I think it's a great point. I mean, they've not lost yet this postseason. Everyone's talked about how great and dominant this Knicks stretch of 7 games have been. Well, the Thunder have only played 7 games this postseason, and they have been just as dominant. And I feel like it's kind of flying under the radar. They have had a fairly easy draw, but that is the benefit you get when you win the most games out of anyone in the NBA. You get the 1 seed, you get the easier path. That's the benefit you get. The last thing I want to bring up, one, I just gotta mention that Rui, his what he does in the playoffs as a 3-point shooter is just it's fantastic. Honestly, like it's so fun to just be like, there's this guy he's not a bad shooter. He's a pretty good regular season shooter, but he's the all-time leader in 3-point percentage in the playoffs at over 50%. Like, he just gets in the playoffs and is absolute flamethrower. 5 of 8 from 3 in game 3. Like, his playoff strap is just unreal. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then a question for y'all, and probably more specifically JP, but you're welcome to chime in too, Sanders. Austin Reeves is about to be a free agent. He's getting a lot of max talk, and like, oh, he's going to be the Robin to Luka going forward in LA. But this has not exactly been a great series for him. He doesn't hold up very well against OKC. Their physicality on defense, and then he's also just not a very good defender in his own right. Would y'all pay him the max, or do you think that's like an overpay and they're going to end up regretting it if they do that?
I'm not paying him the max. Like, there was a huge debate in like paying a guy like Jaylen Brown the super max.
Yeah.
And he's earned that with the way he's played, the Finals MVP and an All NBA year this year. But he at least had defensive upside to him, unlike Austin. Austin this year averaged 23 a game. The year prior, he averaged 20 a game. He's in a good scorer. He's an efficient scorer. He's usually over about 47% shooting from the field, but he's not. I just don't think he's shown the scoring output to be a full on max player alongside Luca. I think he could get the max, and he might get the max from someone else. Like I think another team might send him the bag that has some younger players and can afford to do it, and they're looking for that guy that can score 23 points a night. I don't know who that team is right now, to be honest, but I just don't.
would say like the Thunder, but they already have a crap ton of guards. Not the Thunder,
Oh, yeah.
the Rockets, the Rockets.
Okay.
The Rockets, yeah,
Just
sure.
because they do need an offensive weapon, but they already have a bunch of guards. They just shipped off a couple last off season. So
I can tell you from a team building perspective, having the only experience, my only experience team building is through the video game 2K. It is really hard to build a competitive roster with two guys on a max contract. You really kind of can only be capped to a guy on a max contract, and then you can have 2 to 3 guys that are in the 25 to $40 million range. But if you're going to pay multiple guys 55 million, it's really, really hard to do. I mean, we saw the Suns try to do it 3 years ago with Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, 55 million or so across all 3 of their contracts, and then everyone else on the team, except for one other player, the mid-level exception, had to be on a minimum contract. The team was not good. The team missed the playoffs one year and flamed out in the first round the other year, and Bradley Beal didn't convert to anything with his contract. So it's just really, really hard to do. I wouldn't advise it for the Lakers either. Like I do think like Luka needs some kind of guy like Austin Reeves.
Agreed.
That can score, can get his own bucket. He does not need necessarily a guy that has to be a good defender. I mean, we saw it with Kyrie. We even saw it with Jalen Brunson to a degree. Like it doesn't have to be an elite defender alongside him. You do need someone though that can score. Because Luka's going to get his 30, but you need someone who also can be some kind of impact, especially when Luka's not on the floor.
Yeah.
So I don't think like it's not a fit stylistically. I just don't think money wise it can work where you pay Luka the money and then you also pay Austin the money. I think it significantly caps your ability to construct a competitive roster around them. And now you're just looking at the same Mavericks team that we saw outside of the year they went to the finals in the Western Conference Finals, where they could be the 10 seed just as easily as they could be, a 5 seed and or a 4 seed and flame out in the playoffs. I just don't think it's going to be competitive enough year after year, and that is something you have to fully consider right now because we're looking at the Thunder, being favored to repeat as champions, and maybe the greatest basketball player of all time is there in San Antonio as well in your conference. And then you have Ant in Minnesota. Like that's 3 teams that just feel like they're on the up and up with super young stars. You cannot afford to be not among that top 4 every year and have to then play that one of those teams in the first round and then another one in the second round and then another one in the finals. Like we're seeing that I think we're going to see that with whoever comes out of the Spurs Timberwolves series, where because they were on the wrong side of the bracket, it just became too much when they finally got to play whoever was the 1 seed that year, and this year's the Thunder.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I'd pay him the max. It's just a little steep for what we've seen from him in the playoffs and just what he does defensively. I do think they're going to give it to him, though, just like you said, because I don't know what the other pivot is. Maybe they have someone else they think they can get, someone that they really like, but you do need a running mate with Luka, and it's not like they're going to, it's not like they have tons of draft picks to find that guy in the draft, and the free agent market typically isn't great from year to year. Most people just sign extensions at this point because of the new lottery, not the lottery system, the apron system, where you'll end up in free agency and not a ton of teams will have the cap space to give you a ton of money. So I think they will bring him back, but you're 100% right. we've kind of seen this Luka and AR team together, and they're probably about to lose LeBron if you pay AR that money. It's like the team gets a little worse. It's just I don't think it's going to be enough with those two guys, and then the rest of the pieces the Lakers have around them to compete in the near future.